Welcome back, Crab fam. Real quick, I wanted to let you guys know something. I got a job a few weeks back. Some of what you're going to hear today has to do with that, and others have to do with what I talked about previously with captive propagation projects and other topics. So stay tuned and let's get right into it.
First, what are captive propagation projects and how will you implement them?
Based on the topic of this video, I'm going to guess you're the ghost of crab's future.
Correct.
Well, captive propagation projects are simple. Captive breeding projects geared towards reintroduction. However, to simplify things, I'll be using the term captive breeding from now on, since not all the animals will be reintroduced and I'm not entirely sure if that'll work out since I have to work with foreign governments. And we all know how international relations are working out with the US right now.
International relations are on thin ice right now, but so are you. Now get on with the video.
How I'm going to breed animals can be lumped into two broad groups. A, traditional, using artificial means, and B, ecological, A and B, using naturally based means. What the traditional means entails is using spawning mops, separating males and females, and not concerning myself with water parameters based on where they're from. As the King of DIY says, stability over ideal water parameters. This group, Group A, will be primarily those that are tank raised and have been for a while. Group B animals are those that are wild caught. Group B will be kept in ecologically based aquaria that will replicate their natural habitat as closely as I can manage, within reason. Obviously, this is where my travels once I get my PhD would be useful, as it would be much easier to replicate something I can see in person rather than having to rely on internet sources which aren't always accurate.
Save the unnecessary dialogue and keep the video going. You don't want a 20-minute video, do you?
No, you're right, but this video will be longer than my others since it contains a lot more details. So let's keep it moving. All my breeding projects' offspring will be raised in an ecological system, especially those that are part of Group B. Whatever. Group B. Wild-caught, naturally based aquariums. All my breeding projects' offspring will be raised in an ecological system, especially those that are part of Group B. Wild-caught, naturally based aquariums. At some point, I'll transition them to a less natural, more aquarium-based lifestyle. But part of zero waste means I don't want to have to do things unnecessarily that you must do in a more industrial, sterile environment. I'll allow algae and things to grow on three sides of the enclosure to help feed the offspring, and will vacuum daily, tapering off to every week as they grow up. From this, by the time I sell them, they'll be used to weekly water changes and weekly vacuuming of the substrate, which everyone should do in their tanks at least weekly.
That's a good idea, for once. What do you want to do with your PhD?
In addition to figuring out what sort of habitat they inhabit, I also aim to study their ecology, which is the feeding habits, natural behavior, niche, which is a fancy term to describe an animal's role in their environment, what eats them, when they're active, what threatens them, as far as potential ecological threats such as nickel mining in the case of panther crabs, and more. That way I can learn about them and report to the IUCN to help describe the threat level of each species that they face for the red list of threatened species, the IUCN red list. After I get done with studying them abroad over the course of 1 to 3 months, I plan to export them to my company headquarters with a sample of organisms I can legally and reasonably ship to replicate their habitat to the stream in a macrocosm.
What is a macrocosm?
Good question. A macrocosm is a large, specially designed aquarium that replicates part of a natural habitat or ecosystem. In this case, I'm going to try to replicate the animal's habitat or their overall environment so I can further research them to better understand them. In doing so, I won't have to be away from home too long, but we'll still be able to get good data to accurately use the macrocosm.
How big do you need the macrocosm to be? Can you use a microcosm?
Well, I could probably use a smaller macrocosm, like a microcosm for some species, and the difference between those two will appear on the screen now. But I think for good results, my enclosure, whatever size it is, should be at least 8 foot by 8 foot for most species. Those species that move only minimally could use a smaller footprint than those that move more, but this can still be further tested in an 8 foot by 8 foot space, since we're not sure how the move will affect them, or how the replicated environment might still lack in certain environmental qualities, possibly causing them to move to a different section of the replicated environment.
Interesting. It would seem I was being unnecessarily harsh on you before.
I appreciate that, both your admission and your harshness, because it's good to get constructive criticism so you think things through. And even the harshest critics can give you a good view on what you might still need to think about.
Don't flatter yourself, Jacob. I've heard you want Green Aquatics to start paying for itself instead of you needing to continually invest money into it. What's that about?
I don't want to have any problems in the future when I'm married, so yes, I'd like to have my business start to pay for itself. This isn't going to happen overnight, but within 2 to 3 years it should make a profit, if not sooner.
How will you make this happen?
I'll stop putting all my plants. For one, I like being surrounded by fish tanks, immersed growth bins, and different wildlife. Both plants, which is the flora, and animals, which is the fauna. But there comes a point in time when you have to start deciding what's more important. Needing 1 billion tanks to house everything, or having just a few tanks and making money with your hobby, which is supposed to be a business in the first place. Recently, as I've continued to grow and mature, I've realized I don't want to have to keep investing a lot of money into my business. It's already a money hole. It needs to start making a profit if it wants to stick around. Because I do want to invest in other things as well. I have other hobbies and people I want to invest in.
Unnecessary to mention.
Maybe, but some things are worth mentioning. As such, based on what I've said, I just want to be able to make a profit and lessen possible issues down the line with my future family.
Do you have anyone in mind?
Now that is unnecessary. And I wouldn't publicize it anyhow until it's final. Until I'm actually dating. Point being, I have a few guidelines I like to follow when it comes to out-of-pocket expenses and business profit expenses.
Well, which is which, and what falls into what category?
To start with, I'll save a portion of my net income for out-of-pocket expenses, which include new livestock and enclosures to better house my animals, as far as when they have crablets or when I have fish fried that I need to take care of. As well as special projects for YouTube. That is, all you fine ladies and gentlemen who watch my videos and help my channel stay afloat. No pun intended.
Sure.
I'll likely be able to bring you guys a new project-based video every 6 months to a year, but it may vary depending on the cost of the project. So don't hold me to that too strictly, but expect a new project video around that time frame, and I'll let you guys know when I'm close to publishing one. On the other hand, upgrades to my business practices won't be paid for out of pocket, such as a new air system to make the equipment I already have obsolete. But new animals to breed, show off, and sell will, since I want to show fresh content for the crab fam. Following, I'll give you a list of what species I'm looking into and which ones have priority. The highest priority animal to breed and sell, after my PMCs, which is the Popometano crabs, will be the panther crab, being a lot more popular in the hobby than other freshwater crabs, as well as being vulnerable due to nickel deposits in the sand of the beaches where they and the PMCs live, makes this the highest priority crab on my list. Next on the crabby list includes mandarin crabs, vampire crabs, onjamboneo crabs, and white omboneo crabs, which I suspect is endangered land sarawak crab. These are ranked similar to the PMCs and panthers based on vulnerability and difficulty, with less risk species going before greater risk species, so I can make sure I have the ability and experience to keep them alive. I know I can keep them, I'm just not sure if I can breed them since I have no experience with breeding crabs yet. So while I wait for the PMCs to breed, I'll be working on breeding fish. I'll be showing off some new fish I got after they finish quarantining, and I'll be working on my guppy lines as well.
That sounds like a good plan. Keep at it, and I'm sure you'll succeed.
What's up, guys? So I wanted to add this to the video because for one, I need to get out of my shell. For two, let's have a little bit of fun. Here's the challenge. You have to greet me, whether it be at like VidCon or anything else, at church, at the park. I don't care. If you recognize me, you have to do the crab dance. And I'll greet you this likewise when I see you doing that. Yeah, it's gonna be a challenge for me, but I know I will overcome it at some point.